welcome into the Gaming Discourse. I am Tyler Frater alongside Richard De La Cruz, who's in studio.
Yes, it's so great to hear that song again.
It's literally been like a year.
Yeah.
Like a year and a half.
And that I just outed myself. I don't re-listen to the podcast.
Well, you and
wow.
Until next week, I guess, we have someone else joining us on Skype, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater, who is on Skype.
Wow, that wasn't as exciting as all the other times.
No, the excitement is for people in-house today. Richard brought over...
Sticks with them.
Richard, we had a play date. You brought over your PS5.
Yes.
Which was like, it's like you brought over the Ark of the Covenant or something.
Really? Was it really that bad? You should be dead.
So we're going to have that to talk about. We've got news to talk about. And Connor, I know, has been playing a lot of Rome Total War, so we'll be talking about that too. At least I think, I assume you have been. We've got camera set up in a new spot, so I'll see later tonight if the angle is good. I'm just noticing now on Skype. I'm not sure if I need to push the camera up or not, but we're not going to worry about that for now. Yeah. Okay, Connor, why don't you start us off with what you've been playing?
Well, Rome Total War Remastered, obviously. It is just as good as I remember the game being. And the graphical updates on it and the improvements to the AI make the game even better than it was back in the day. So it's all been good upgrades. I've played around a little bit with the improvements to the not improvements, but the reworks that they added that were optional. And moreover, I prefer to have the original experience just with better AI and better graphics, because it's Rome Total War. It was a perfect game. It doesn't need to be touched. And other than that, Tyler, you loaned me your old Rift headset.
I did.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
I did.
And I've been playing a lot of VR and smashing my fingers a lot into my wall.
Please be careful with my controllers.
Thank you for your concern about my fingers.
Those controllers are expensive. Fingers can be replaced. Just kidding.
What?
I've been playing a lot of Robo Recall because that game is just too much fun. Just decimating robots and throwing body parts at other robots. So much fun. As well as playing Iron Wolf with you, Tyler, and doing Iron all Wolf, the fun stuff of submarine warfare.
Did you want to get into it at all, or did you leave it to me?
No, just that.
So I would love to talk about Iron Wolf, which is really good.
Oh, then go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, Richard brought over your PS5.
Okay.
A few hours.
Uh-huh.
You're saying that like you didn't know.
Well, I thought you were going to get into Iron Wolf.
Oh, no. Well, I am. I'm just sort of setting the stage for the things I want to talk about.
Sure.
I love talking with my hands at someone that's in... Anyway.
Yeah.
So you brought over Iron Wolf. You didn't bring over Iron Wolf. I had Iron Wolf, and you brought over your PS5. So this is the thing I'm going to talk about right now. So Iron Wolf is a VR... It's sort of milsimmy. It's not super milsimmy. But it is like slow paced. It's a submarine combat game, and they're adding a destroyer. It's in early access right now, and it's been in early access for a couple of years. But it's a co-op game. So have you played Star Trek Bridge Crew?
No, not yet.
No. So Bridge Crew is similar. So you have like 4 people, and then each person has a job on the ship. And each of these jobs requires like a little bit of pressing buttons and levers and stuff like that. And each is somewhat complicated. It's a little more complicated than Bridge Crew, though, because Bridge Crew is somewhat simplified. I wouldn't consider Bridge Crew a simulator, but Iron Wolf I would definitely consider a little bit closer to a simulator because you have a bunch of different stuff to take into consideration when you're attacking. But a long time ago, all there was just missions. So it's like you pick a mission and you go out and destroy whatever ship that you wanted to destroy. But in recent years, they added an open world where if you've played other submarine games like Cold Waters or U-Boat, they have similar concepts where it's like you get a map and you draw your route and you sort of just sail around and you see enemies that are around and you can choose to attack or leave the enemy alone. And so you're basically fast traveling the whole time. Okay. But once you actually engage an enemy, then you're like in a combat. Then you're like, I don't know, like a JRPG. All of a sudden everything stops and you get thrown into like a little like arena type thing
Okay.
where you're fighting an enemy, not an arena, but sort of a an area where if you leave that area, then you can go back into fast travel. But yeah, it's really good. You can automate certain things on the submarine so that you can play with 2 people because there are a ton of jobs. There's 4 main rooms. There's the torpedo room, which is reloading.
Mm-hmm.
There's the torpedo control room, which is firing and steering the torpedoes. There's the helm, which is where you're steering the ship. And then there's the engineering room, which is where you're turning the engines off and on. You're doing different things to switch between battery power and diesel power and stuff like that. And you can automate all those processes so that you can control the ship with like 2 people. So Connor and I, when we were playing, it was just the 2 of us. We had the engine room automated. So when I would send up a signal to like go to full forward or back reverse or whatever on the submarine, the engine room just did it automatically. But I think if you're playing with 4 people and you deselect that, the person sees the signal and then they have to physically do the levers to get the submarine to do what you just told it to do.
Yeah.
So it's like communication a bit. And so it was just the 2 of us. And so I was steering, Connor was doing torpedo control, and then we would both sort of load the torpedoes depending on what the situation called for. It was a lot of fun though. I had yet to play in the open world with somebody. It's really intense. How the open world works is you go out, you score points, and then you can upgrade your submarine. And your submarine starts off and it's pretty bare bones. You move really slowly. You don't have a lot of armor. Your maps. The helm has a map, and if you detect a signal, it shows you a dot. You don't know what the ship is. You just know there's a ship there. And in the torpedo control room is the what's that thing called that you pull down? Periscope. Yeah, you pull down the periscope. That's how you actually see what the ship is. And there's also a hydrophone which listens to the sound. So if you know the sounds well enough, you can say what the ships are. But if ships are really close to one another, you have to sort of aim with the periscope to learn what it is. So yeah, you go out into the open world. You upgrade your ship. If you die, I think you go back to your port, which is like your safe area. So I don't think there's a huge like penalty for dying, except that it sucks. I don't know, we'll have to play some more, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. You sort of pick your targets and then you have to decide when you want to shoot, and there's a bunch of little tiny things that I'll have to figure out. One thing that I know of is as soon as you fire a torpedo or you're detected, other ships will send sonar pings for you. And that's how they try to locate you. And as soon as they locate you, they send depth charges, which is intense because when you're underwater, the way you hear depth charges is the game. You hear the splashes of the depth charges above you. In real life, if you're 100 feet below water in a submarine, you couldn't hear that. Right. But it does it just to make it a little more intense. So just like in every submarine movie ever, there's the moment where you fire a couple torpedoes and then you dive and you hear like the of like the depth charges above you, and they start to go off, and you just have to wait and hope that none of them are going to go off near you. But yeah, so anyway, so one strategy that's really cool is if the surface of the ocean is at 100 meters, and I say 100 because if you're going further than 100 meters down, it gets really dangerous. Like once you're at like 200, the submarine will start to break apart, so you can't go super deep. It's like 1940s World War II-esque. Okay. So it's not modern subs. But anyway, if the surface of the ocean is 100 feet down, you can set the submarine oh so gently on the bottom of the ocean, and radar pings won't be able to hear you.
You're too low, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure of the reason, or sonar pings. I'm not sure of the reason why, or if that's accurate.
It's because the sonar, like in real life, the sonar bounces off the floor of the ocean, so they just hear the floor of the ocean.
Oh, so to them it's like you're a hill or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. But anyway, so we did that and it actually worked, and it was really freaking cool because then we had enemy frigates just sail above us looking for us. And then as soon as they had cleared us, we sort of just rose and fired more torpedoes at them from the back. Yeah. So it's a lot of ambushes. It's a lot of cat and mouse tactics. And I'm really looking forward to get into it a little bit more. Yeah, there was one point where we ran into a convoy. We had a fight with all these frigates. And then the last frigate, we had like a 20-minute battle with this frigate. because you don't know where the ship is, because because the ship that we're in is so unupgraded or whatever, so low level. So it's like we wouldn't know where it is, and as we would start to rise, it would be like right above us, and it would detect us and send depth charges. So we'd have to like go back down. So we had this like really long battle with this frigate, while the merchant ships, which are supposed to be carrying like supplies and stuff, those are your targets. They're like already sailing off. So we have to destroy this so we can go destroy the merchant ship. So anyway, so after this battle, where we were limping and the frigate was limping, we finally destroyed it. And then we surfaced and we had our little like our monocle telescopes out looking for the merchant ship, and right way on the horizon, like just poking over the horizon, was its smokestacks. So we chased it down and destroyed it. So that was really cool. It's a lot of fun. And I'm so happy that I got to do the open world, because I don't think I've done tons of the missions, which are great, but the open world adds like an element of finality, because you have a limited number of torpedoes before you have to go back to port. So if you like empty out all your torpedoes in a single battle, you have to go back to get more, and that of course means if you go back and you're intercepted on your way back, then you're basically defenseless. So you have to like run. So yeah, Iron Wolf's a lot of. I haven't been playing much else than that. Much else video games, at least. I do have some thoughts on the PS5. I played it for like 2 hours. So you're gonna be. Oh yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I want to point out, you said that we would swap back and forth between loading torpedoes. What you should have said is we swapped back and forth between me loading torpedoes and you flooding the torpedo room.
Yes, because if you open a torpedo hatch, without doing the correct steps, water will just pour in.
Right.
So you have to so you have to empty the torpedo slot, and then you put the torpedo in. Then you have to close the door. Then you have to lock the door. If you do any of those things wrong, the torpedo door will slam back open and water will pour in. Awesome. And so I completely forgot all the steps. But it's really cool and it's really intense. For one, that room, because it's a really important job, and a lot of people, when they learn the steps for the first time, they don't realize it, or they skip something. So it's really scary when they're trying to reload and you've got water, and your only way out of this room is a hatch above you. So it's completely claustrophobic. I don't know how people did it in real life, but it's really intense. But anyway, so yeah, tons of fun. And yeah, yesterday, because I hadn't played in a while, the first time I went to reload a torpedo, I was just neck high in water. Just like, oh shoot, I don't remember how to do any of this, which was funny.
Meme of the dog around the fire. This is fine.
Yes. Yeah. Anything else, Connor?
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so PS5.
Yeah.
So first impressions. You have a giant smile.
Well, let's see here. How about I talk about my two, and then we can end with like yours and Returnal.
That's perfect.
Okay. All right.
Well, return to me.
Yeah. All right. So I got three games I've been playing. The first one I'll start off with. I've been playing new Pokemon Snap, which the original Pokemon Snap came out on N64. It was a favorite game of mine growing up. All you do is take photos of Pokemon. It's like an expedition like type game.
Okay, fun.
And it's just, that you get to see the Pokemon in like a living environment, whereas
it's like a safari type thing.
Yeah, basically. So you are on a track. You can't go anywhere else. It's already like set motion.
Okay.
From one point of the level to the next. And as you go along, Pokemon will pop up, or they're just kind of doing their own thing. You take photos of them. That's the original concept of the game, and still is for this new one for the Switch. My original worry about the game was that the first game is like 2 hours long. Like you could beat it very easily, you know. And there is incentive to keep going back, but it was on the 64, so there's not much you can do. So for $60 for a new Pokemon Snap, that's kind of, and we don't know how it's going to operate. It's kind of like, well, am I going to get just 2 hours of game again, or what? Like, what am I going to get? And I'm definitely happy to say that it's a hell of a lot longer than 2 hours. Okay. Actually, it's still ongoing for me. And I think that they approached this sequel with a lot more ideas to not only elongate the game, but make it more, I guess I'll use the word immersive. One thing about the Pokemon series that I am kind of getting tired of is the lifelessness of it. And that's not, of course, that is a little bit of bag on the game, but the thing is, these games are made for children. They're not made for me, so although adults can enjoy it, obviously,
totally.
tons of people can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like their main audience is children.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you play a Pokemon game, it's like, oh, go Pikachu or whatever, and Pikachu pops out. He's just standing there kind of like,
Yeah.
In Pokemon Snap, new Pokemon Snap, the first time I went through a level, I was awestruck because these Pokemon, due to the advancements in technology or whatever, are now like literally living in their space. Like they are doing things. They are sleeping, and you can eventually unlock things like fruit so that you can like throw at them and they'll be like, whoa, and they'll go eat it or whatnot. Or you can scan things and they'll hear the noise and they'll react to like
that
you.
Sounds fun.
And it's very, very fun, very cathartic. But yeah, like you go through the first level you get is just a basic path. And then they're like, hey, you can go through this again. There's actually a nighttime version. So you go through a nighttime version now, and there's different Pokemon. And there are different spots doing different things. And then they reveal to you that there's a third, like, special part of the level. Deals with the story. I'm not going to get into it, but
sorry.
But no.
I just pictured like the guy from Jurassic Park throwing other Pokemon into like this cage, and all you hear is like the Pokemon getting ripped up, and he's like Velociraptor Pokemon come from the sides.
With the size of the Pokemon in the third level, like it may be. But so then they reveal to you that the levels themselves, or the pathways for day and night, have XP meters to them. So when you're taking photos, you gain points for the photos you take, and those get influenced into the XP meter.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Go ahead.
Do you control the camera with your thumbstick, or can you actually hold the switch and move it around?
You can do either or.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's fun. That's a lot of fun.
As far as I've heard, I haven't done
You haven't done that thing?
Yeah, because I play it on my TV, so I'm
okay.
plebeian, I guess. When you fill up that XP meter, the next time you go into the level, even more different things start happening. Like Pokemon get more familiar with you, and like in the first level there's a Pichu and a Grookey. I don't expect you guys to know what they look like, but they're running around chasing each other. They're having fun because they're like little like baby Pokemon.
Okay.
And then eventually, like when you go through levels, they'll start to stop at certain areas and like look at you and be like, "Oh, what's that?" Like they're hiding and they're like looking at you and they're like kind of following you throughout the level. But it's impressive that now I get to go through the same level 5-6 times and still not find every secret because I have to unlock more stuff, or I didn't do something correctly. Each Pokemon has up to 4 different grades of a photo that you take, like a 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, or 4-star.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all dependent on what they're doing and how special whatever thing that they're doing is. Like if I throw a apple at this like beaver Pokemon, he'll like go into his dam and pop out on the top. And if I take a picture, it's like, oh, that's 4-star. We don't see him do that much or whatever. So you get points based off that. But it's, as someone who is, I guess, I'm a fan of I like Pokemon, but I'm not like into Pokemon. This is something that I've wanted to see for a long time. It's like the Pokemon just doing things, being animals.
Yeah.
and they are, and it's great. But I'm very happy that it's I think it's like 15 hours to beat the game.
Wow.
And some reviewers even said they're like 30 hours into it and they still haven't done anything. So I don't have to worry about how long the game is, which is great. But.
Okay. We say it's like, oh, this fun little game where you take pictures of Pokemon. When we do the NPD numbers, it's going to be like, oh, the number 1 selling game is going to be Pokemon. what was it? Pokemon Pictures?
Snap.
Yeah. Pokemon Snap.
You better believe it, man. Yeah.
Sold 2 million copies this month or something.
I don't know. The Resident Evil Village is selling a lot too, and that's the second game I've been playing is Resident Evil Village. And I told you already before the podcast, but I let my friends know I beat it the other night. Resident Evil games are not very long. They're usually around like 8 to 12 hour games, and I think I beat it in over 10 hours. But it is one of like my favorite popcorn games, like something that I can just go through. It is awesome. It's gorgeous. It plays excellently. The story is fun. Like, it's just not like, don't take it seriously, you know? Like, there's so many things that happen in Resident Evil Village that I was like, well, this is dumb. This is stupid, but this is awesome. And you get to the point where there is a point in the story where they go, well, wait a minute, there's a reason why this stuff is happening. And then they start to explain it. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. Thanks for making something that was stupid and
somewhat
obvious,
grounded,
but
like,
not grounded,
not grounded.
but at least pointing out, like, hey, remember that dumb thing that happened? Well, let me tell you why that happened.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
so it's very cool, and I think that Capcom specifically got very lucky, because we all know Lady Dimitrescu, the
yes,
very tall woman that the internet fell in love with. She is barely a piece of that game.
really.
She is barely a piece of it, yes. And Capcom got very lucky that the internet stuck to her, because they had to do nothing else for their marketing.
Yeah.
And so now like you have two crowds of people. I think you have first crowd like me that's like, wow, like, whoa, she's only like 2 to 3 hours of this game. Like, the rest of it is there's more villains, there's more people to deal with. Like, this is
Interesting.
great. But then you have the other half who's probably like, oh, she's not in it the whole game. Oh man, you know. So, but she's all of the characters are great. All the villains are great. The game even has time to get very Silent Hill at a point.
Oh, neat.
Which was not expected, and it was very welcome, because it scared the crap out of me. So,
oh, I'm excited for that.
so yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Because you will get to it. But yeah, I ended up beating it, and I had to immediately sink my teeth into more, and I went through. And I'm almost done with the second playthrough, because of course you get all the unlockables and infinite ammo and stuff. So I'm blazing through it, but now I think I have to go back to an earlier save, because there's a point where you don't go back to the open world-esque village. It's not open world, I shouldn't say that. Open areas.
Yeah.
Because you can go back and gather things you missed or unlock things you didn't before, and I think I should probably get to that before I actually finish the game again. That way I don't have to go through it another time. But and then on top of that, there's like the Mercenaries Mode, which is like an arcade style mode where you just go through levels and you get combos by taking out enemies.
Okay.
And you get, of course, rewards at the end of it, stuff like that.
Was there a mode like that in the Resident Evil 2 remake? Was it the Hunk guy that you played as?
Those were extra, like, story based.
Oh, okay.
But there was no, in 2 and 3 there was not. But in
okay.
Resident Evil, and all the other ones there were. Resident Evil 4, 5, 6,
No.
7 didn't have it. But and of course Resident Evil 8 is a sequel to 7, but 7 and 8 themselves are like a contained story that tied together throughout the whole Resident Evil universe. But I think it's definitely on my list for Game of the Year so far.
Wow, all right.
But we're only halfway through the year. Of course, we have like Ratchet and Clank.
Things really haven't kicked up yet.
No.
I mean, just these past few weeks with Returnal, with Resident Evil 8, Pokemon Snap.
Yeah. Remastered.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, so
oh, yeah.
things sort of a slow start to the year. And then we're going to get VR games over the summer as well. But anyway.
Resident Evil 4 VR at the end of the year.
Oh, my Lord, I forgot that existed. I'm so excited for it. All right,
so move on. Let's move on. You start.
Yeah, so I think the hype for the controller is real. That is really neat. It's tough to describe, but I played the Astro's Playroom, which is the entire thing is like this fun love letter to Sony, and it's, you know, funny little Astrobots everywhere. And the idea is that it's showing off the controller. And there's a couple spots where, so the textures of the floor all have different, the controller makes different, haptics. It has different haptics for different places on the floor. So like one specific spot had a metal, so there's this platform, and on the platform in the middle was like a metal circle, and then around the metal circle was tile, and then outside of that tile was hollow glass. And each surface felt a little bit different with the controller. And the only way to describe it is that when I walked on the glass, it felt like I was walking on clinking hollow glass. And the tile felt like tile. Like it was just like no reverberation whatsoever. and then the metal felt like you were walking on sort of a catwalk. Like it sort of felt like metal. There was one part where I was jumping in between a beach type thing and a puddle in the beach. And each time it was like landing on the sand felt different than landing in the puddle with the water. So these feelings are different. The triggers are really cool. There's a little mechanic where you're in like a jump pod and you have to hold the trigger down to charge it, and then when you let it go, he sort of jumps.
It's a spring.
Yeah, it's a spring. Oh yeah, spring. Yeah, that's a way better way of putting it. And it feels like you're controlling a spring with the controller. And as opposed to, there's another little mechanic where there are these robotic arms that have these plastic like toy balls that you break apart and you get little prizes. And when you press down on the trigger, it's like at first it's sort of easy, and then it gets difficult, and then you sort of break through like you would with a plastic ball. Like your hand just sort of on the screen, it sort of snaps and you make a fist, and the trigger sort of just cocks back or whatever. So the controller is really freaking cool, and all I can think about is how I want a Metro game where like your gun gets muddy and your triggers won't work, or like anything like that.
I forgot that wish is coming true.
Is it?
They're completely redoing Metro Exodus.
Well, I will have to play through it a second time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love that kind of stuff. Or games where weapons jam. I would love it where, the trigger stopped working. I mean, all it brought to my mind was like how cool would it be in Red Dead if the different revolvers had different pressures on the trigger. I don't know. But there's enough there that I think the hype is real. Now, as you always point out correctly, I think it's going to be up to the developer's imagination, and then if they do it. And I hope they do, because it really feels like there's a ton. I mean, even like, and we talked about this when I got to the part where in Astro's Playroom, where it's ice, and you can feel the ice skating.
He traverses on the ice by skating on it.
By skating.
But the vibration that the controller gives off feels thin.
Like you would imagine skating feels like. It's really weird to describe. But that sort of thing is a product of the controller, not a product of Astro's Playroom, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you could put that in other games. If you made an Uncharted and you wanted to make, Nathan or whomever feel like he's, feel the different things that he's walking on, whether it be sand or snow or whatever, like you could do it with that controller, and that would make it really cool in Uncharted to sort of feel the environment that the character is in. I would love to check out a driving game that has it, just to see like how it would feel. But I mean, all that, it just brought to my mind just a flood of like, okay, like what else is possible here? I mean, like turning on a lightsaber, feeling the initial vibration of like the lightsaber turning on, stuff like that. Just because the variety in Astro's Playroom really is freaking cool. And yeah, you see articles a lot that say like, this really does seem like something new. And that's sort of cliche, and it's sort of,
sensationalist?
Sensation. I mean, maybe sensational, maybe a little hyperbolic, but when I played, it was like, no, yeah, this feels like something new that can be utilized. Mm-hmm. When I was playing Returnal, which Returnal, you are absolutely correct, is Housemarque must have like come over and sort of taken my subconscious and made a video game out of it, because it's roguelike, which is great, sci-fi horror, which is great, a lot of Control vibes, some H.R. Geiger, or Giger, pronounce his name, a lot of that vibe going on, so it's really freaking cool. But in that one I noticed there's a chest that you walk up to, and with the controller you can feel her heartbeat, and as you walk up to the chest, the heartbeat gets stronger on the controller, and as you walk away it gets softer. And it was just a really precise feel with the controller, and it's much more precise than older controllers, right? So like, I'm not, like, it's tough to describe, as opposed to like the entire controller shaking, or you being able to, I mean, not shaking, but spinning or whatever, or feel that. It's more, I guess, an intuitive feeling. Like it feels the way you would imagine it feel.
Yes.
Which is strange because, how do you imagine what it feels like to fall in a puddle? And then you play Astro's Playroom and you're like, no, yeah, that's exactly sort of how I formed it in my mind. So it's really freaking cool. And I really hope developers take advantage of that, because I think there's all kinds of really cool things neat things from platformers to adventure games to shooters to whatever. That would be really, really cool. Yeah, I only played a little bit of Returnal, hour or so. Loved it. Thought it was really cool. Gonna have to get into it a little bit more, but yeah, that Returnal is right up my lane. Yeah.
I don't think our controllers need more buttons, but like I said, with Returnal, what they've done with the haptic feedbacks is essentially giving you 2 more buttons. Like realistically, if they want to, because what they do is for your any weapon, when you aim down the sights, it's L2, and it stops halfway. It doesn't let you go any further. But if you do, put more pressure and go further, it changes your gun into an alt fire mode. Mm-hmm. So you essentially on your trigger now, instead of 1 button, have 2 buttons, like a half press and then a full press.
Yeah.
Which is really wild. And I know that's stuff that's already been done before. Like GameCube had those type of.
Oh geez, I don't even remember.
Yeah, you would press it and then there would be an extra click at the end.
Okay.
And that would be, but it's not as advanced as the haptic feedbacks.
Well, because the next second you're pressing on or in a different game, that's not there. So it's just a trigger.
Yeah.
It's just a normal trigger. Whereas, like in Returnal, it's like it really is precise enough that, in Returnal's a game where it's a third-person shooter, it's a bullet hell, so you're dodging, jumping all over the place. And the trigger was, what's the word I want to look for? It was precise enough, I guess is the word, that I wasn't like accidentally clicking it all the way down every single time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I thought in my mind, okay, I only want to press it down halfway, I was able to do that without like accidentally going all the way down. And if I wanted to charge my weapon or do the alt fire, like I could do that without thinking about it. So in my mind, it did work like a second button.
Yeah.
But then in another game, that button goes away, which is really freaking cool.
And it's still, with PS5 has still only been out for 6-7 months, and I still, even though it's my main console I play on, I forget that the haptic controls are a thing on it because, I will press, or I will pull the trigger on my pistol, and there's that pressure and then that click and release of after you've shot, and I'm like, oh, like I remember it, and I'm like, crap, right, I forget that's there because it kind of throws off my rhythm. But Resident Evil Village uses it in a very cool way as well. They like the left trigger, of course, when you aim a pistol, it's very easy, but when you aim your rifle, your sniper rifle, it is very difficult and very pressurized because it's like simulating the weight of pulling up your sniper rifle before you shoot it, and it's very interesting. And I'm surprised that I don't want to say surprised. Well, yeah, I'm surprised that they were able to like kind of implement that. But I'm sure they were working on it for a while. So
I think that's interesting because you'd have to imagine if you're a developer for Resident Evil 8 and you're going to add this, because if it's enough that every time you pull out the sniper rifle, you have to remind yourself, okay, I can't press down on the trigger that hard or whatever.
Yes.
So it changes the way that you use the sniper rifle, as opposed to like the PC where that's completely gone.
Yeah.
So now it's like 2 different players have different perceptions of the same weapon in the same game because one of those players has a controller and or a DualSense, I guess. And I guess you could say the same thing about like VR, because VR allows you to perceive things differently.
Yes, it
so it's like
does.
like when you play Elite Dangerous and you fly up on a star and the star is like incomprehensibly massive as opposed to when it's on your desktop. Like those are 2 different things. But that's perception as opposed to gameplay, right? And I can't think of like a gameplay example off the top of my head that's better than. So that's interesting that they decided to do that because they know that they're developing something that's going to be different for like different player sets. And I wonder how that discussion goes. Like, do we want to do this? How difficult is that to do? And I guess we'll see with other games that release across different platforms how difficult it is. Because if a bunch of games that come out on PS5 have tons of haptic options, then then I guess it's not that difficult because a lot of developers are doing it. So, yeah. Any other thoughts?
No, sir.
No? Anything you would like to say, Connor?
Nope.
Okay. We'll move on to news and notes, I think. Yeah. For a second, I thought I had something else to say. No. All right. Ubisoft to release its big budget versions in free-to-play. So there's going to be big budget games. They're going to have a free-to-play version. and this is its AAA titles, stuff like that. Speaking with investors, Ubisoft's financial boss Frederic Duget said the company is releasing 3 or 4 big budget games a year was no longer, quote, a proper indication of our value creation dynamics, end quote. On Twitter, Sean Lama, who's a senior analyst at Ubisoft, clarified the news, saying, quote, regarding the Ubisoft comment, it's in reference to free-to-play becoming a larger share of the revenue pie, not an indication that there will be less traditional paid games like Assassin's Creed. The content mix is expanding, not changing. A good comparison is the evolution of Call of Duty since Warzone. This is purely a financial communication evolution and doesn't change the fact that we continue to expect a high cadence of content delivery, including powerful premium and free-to-play new releases, end quote. Ubisoft further clarified the news in a statement to Eurogamer, saying, quote, our intention is to deliver a diverse lineup of games that players will love across all platforms. We are excited to be investing more in free-to-play experiences. However, we want to clarify that this does not mean reducing our AAA offering. Our aim is to continue to deliver premium experiences to players while also expanding our free-to-play portfolio, end quote. So it's one of those things where we don't really know the extent. We know the news, but how big of a deal, right, is like the news.
Right.
Like how expansive is this going to be? I have a lot of thoughts on it. I'll let you guys go first if you would like.
Yeah. This sounds interesting. I know that there have been very high-profile games in the past 3 years that have released that are free-to-play that are now very, very large, not only in scope but content. I'm particularly looking at, Call of Duty Warzone and Apex Legends. I mean, particularly, they are multiplayer shooters, but I also then start to think of like Destiny 2 or Warframe or something that offer like robust single-player content stories and whatnot, but supplement their earnings with battle passes or paid cosmetics and stuff like that. Like, sorry, I'm just thinking of paid cosmetics and I think of Call of Duty. Like I was running around last night and there's a guy with a particular avatar and a particular gun that you can't get unless you buy it. And I went to that pack and that pack is $18. And you only get 2 skins for 2 specific guns. It's not any gun. It's just 2 specific ones. And then you get those 2 avatars and like 3 other like small things. And it's just like, sure, he could have earned those points from the battle pass, but then that means he spent maybe $20 to $30 on the battle pass, and so. But then I start to think there's a lot of kids playing games now that are 14 to 18, and microtransactions began roughly about 15, 16 years ago. That's all they've known is stuff that's like free to play microtransactions. Yep. So now we are coming up on a group of gamers that are perfectly fine with free to play or pay whenever you want to experience something cosmetic or whatnot. And that is okay, probably because I am someone who understands that things change and it's just we can't live our lives the same always. But at the same time, I don't want, as soon as I start seeing free to play, if any of these Ubisoft free to play games end up having like you can only get so far until you have to pay.
A paywall.
You can only play for
paywall.
20 minutes. You can only play for a half hour or something like that. Then that's going to be the point where I'm going to be very worried, or just it'll be a game I won't play. But I think that there's still plenty of gamers out there who enjoy paying $60, $70 for their experiences that they gain. But it is walking a fine line, and like I've said before, someone has to take that first plunge, and Ubisoft seems to be doing that. So we'll see what happens, I guess. I mean, with what was it, Division Heartland?
Yeah, Division Heartland's gonna be like a free-to-play version, which makes sense. And I could have told you a year ago that would make sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's particularly insightful. It's just like with Destiny going free-to-play and Warzone going free-to-play, it just another looter shooter blah 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 purple gun game. Right. Like, not to demean it, lots of people love Division. Yeah. I don't like free to play for a few reasons, so I'll leave that.
The thing is with like Division and Destiny particularly is that they were full valued games first, and
Yeah.
then went free to play.
Yep.
So I think that's why, like, when I think about those, I'm both okay and not okay with it, because I have to stop myself and remember that they were once pay to, just play the game before they went free to play. So that's probably why they're structured so well. If all games from here on out came out and they were structured like Division 2, Division 2 is not free to play, but it feels like it is. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
If they were structured like Destiny or Warframe or something like that, and they were free to play, I would be at least fine with that, because I'm not locked out of anything,
Yeah.
Except for maybe expansions.
You're not technically locked out of it,
right?
And that's the gray area, is like the wink paywall, right? Like, oh, you don't have to. You can earn everything, after 2,000 hours, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Free to play for me it's a really complicated thing, because on one hand you have games like Warframe, which I assume they're probably much bigger than they were when they started, but it's a way that I think developers, especially smaller developers, can get a business going, right, and keep people in jobs and stuff like that. And so it's a legitimate business strategy, and I think in a vacuum, there's nothing wrong with it. But that's in a vacuum, right? And we don't live in a vacuum. So. But like Ubisoft, this is an opportunity to get more money, right? Ubisoft doesn't need the money that free to play games will pull in. And if they say they do, I say maybe just get rid of Yves Guillemot. No, but what free to play games bring in, if you can get people through the door, right, then they're more likely to spend more money on something than they would have if the door cost $60 to open in the first place, right?
Right, that's very true.
And so that's the incentive, and that works. And a lot of people just dump their discretionary income into games and cosmetics and stuff. And I'm not someone who's ever going to say that's wrong. Like, if you want to go get a $1,200 Starship in Star Citizen, like, that's you. It's fine. That's your life. Like, I'm in no place to say you're spending your money incorrectly. However, there is a discussion to be had about the ethics and quality and integrity of selling a Starship at $1,200, right? So there's a discussion there as well. So, if you're someone that plays Destiny all the time and you buy all the cosmetics and you're no problem dumping $300 on cosmetics, like, I'm fine. You're not doing anything wrong. But yes, I do think, as you brought up, I do think there is a question about developers pricing way overcharging for cosmetics. If it's a couple skins and a new suit for your dude and it's $20, like, that's ridiculous. And yeah, Ubisoft has danced around this for a bit. They're quote unquote time savers, which is complete bullshit. With Assassin's Creed, because Ubisoft doesn't care about their time. As we've seen, they in the past barely cared about their employees. So if they barely cared about their employees, they sure as hell don't care about players' time. But that was just an excuse. It was an excuse because if you put something out there and enough people buy it, then why not sell it, right? And the fear is that, okay, well, then you're going to be manipulating your game because you have to incentivize those purchases, right? And that's where the wink paywall comes in. The discussion about I know this discussion happened with Genshin Impact. A lot of people loved Genshin Impact, and then I never played it. But a lot of people loved it, and then you saw stuff. Okay, but it's great up until this point, and that's when the free to play wall hits. Yeah. And a lot of people were disappointed. And I think if you ask people, would you rather dump $60 and get Genshin Impact everything without the free to play wall? They'd probably be fine with that. But that's not going to make whoever develops Genshin Impact and whoever publishes it the same amount of money. So this is a money-making scheme. That I think the games industry, we talk about it being unsustainable all the time, and I think in some ways it is. And I think I understand when developers talk about how expensive it is to make games, but I don't think the answer is microtransactions and free-to-play and blah, blah, blah. I think the answer should be the other way. It should be figuring out how to reduce costs. So if, like, do you really need, did Red Dead Redemption 2 really need to be 80 hours with a 10-hour, 20-hour epilogue? Right. Like, that story is amazing and I'm glad it exists, but is it sustainable to do that and have all that story and all that dialogue and all those scenes and stuff like that? You know, I don't know. So yeah, I don't want to pretend like there isn't a discussion here about the economics of the industry. There is, but I'm also not going to just set it down and say, well, games are expensive, therefore, you know, Ubisoft should just charge whatever the hell they want to charge for free to play. Yeah, and I don't trust Ubisoft. Like, trust, when people say they trust or distrust, like, I don't trust any company. I guess I just have a particular disdain for Ubisoft. Because it hasn't even been a year since one of the biggest, like, sagas of holy shit, what's going on at your company went down, and it went down at Ubisoft, and it's just not something that's talked about. And, you know, we haven't talked about it in a while, but Ubisoft hasn't been in the news, so I don't know, maybe we should, but so I just have a little bit of a disdain for them, because it's like, EA sucks, whatever, Sony sucks, Microsoft, like, everybody sucks, but when you suck and you're treating employees like shit, it's like, okay, well, that's a little bit more than like than you know, being a douchebag about your games or whatever. So yeah, so I'm not a fan of this. I just want a new Splinter Cell game. Okay, you know, I won't talk about Yves Guillemot ever again if I get a Splinter Cell game where it's like Sam is training a new Splinter Cell or something like that. I mean, I won't talk about, you know,
you're getting a Splinter Cell VR game, baby.
I know. You know, never mind. We're not gonna talk about that. Connor, did you have anything you wanted to say about this?
Just real quick. This seems like it's gonna be just a mess for Ubisoft. So it's either something that's gonna go by uneventfully, or it's something that's gonna blow up in their face.
See, I don't. To quote Office Space, I'm gonna disagree with you. I think this is gonna be a success. I think they're gonna release a free game. I think it's gonna find an audience of however many players, and I think within that you're gonna find people that spend tons of money on it, and it's gonna be a success. Because
you're already wrong.
You think so?
They just came out with hyperspace.
Okay. You're correct when it comes to that, but I think
Connor wins.
I think time will prove me right there. How about that? I think it'll be a success. And if it's not, great. Like, I don't want to be right. I love Yves Guillemot to get fired. I mean, I love
this day and age now. I mean, man, I'm sure a lot of costs can be cut, particularly to their marketing, by just catering to streamers.
Yeah,
because that's
yeah,
that's a lot of marketing costs. You can just
yes, it is. Unless you ask Google Stadia. Sorry, we're not talking about that tweet. Okay. Anything else you want to add, Connor?
No.
All right, moving on. Yes. Epic's current legal battle with Apple was all a gigantic plan. So before we get into this, if you haven't been following Epic versus Apple, the lawsuit going on, we're not going to get through everything that happened this week. We're going to talk about it for till the end of the podcast here, but there's a bunch of crap that's going on, and I'm sure things happened today and things are going to happen tomorrow. I'm not sure when the case hearing this week ends. It's a clown show. It's a total circus. But anyway, so to recap, Epic wanted to bypass Apple's 30% cut on the App Store where Fortnite was being sold. So they did a loophole. Apple said, nah, brah, and took Fortnite down. Epic sued Apple, and now this is a gigantic lawsuit about monopolies and platforms that has all kinds of implications. And all sorts of people are being dragged into this, from itch.io, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, to Microsoft, to all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so that's the background. As revealed in court filings, which included emails, Epic has been laying the groundwork for Operation Liberty since 2018. Operation Liberty being the name given to Epic's plan to take on Apple and Google. There is a lawsuit that they have against Google too. That one hasn't started yet and hasn't gotten as the same press, and I think it's because I think it might just be, I don't know.
Google seems like they'll just be like, yeah, all right. I don't think there'd be much of an issue.
I think it's because the Apple thing went down first and there's so much fanfare about it. But anyway.
Enemy of my enemy, probably.
No, maybe that. Emails show that, yes, this was all an organized offensive. So the Fortnite, the free Fortnite 1984 commercial, whatever, the hashtag. This is all stuff planned out in advance. They knew Apple wasn't going to like what they were going to do. So
that would explain, because that was a very quick turnaround. That commercial was done within a day.
I'm sure it was done
Or that ad,
like
sorry.
6 months before.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I'm going to read something that Cecilia D'Anastasio at Wired wrote, which I thought was really good. Quote, last August, Epic initiated stage 1, rallying the children. Epic decided to sell discounted V-Bucks through Epic's own direct payment system, including on smartphone. The move was bound to provoke Apple. Epic took issue with that 30% cut, alleging Apple was exercising monopoly power over this ecosystem, and its 30% cut was a monopoly tax that ultimately was paid by consumers. In a July 2020 Project Liberty pitch deck to Epic's board, Epic noted that Fortnite had 81.2 million active monthly users in May of that year, potentially a little army. Not many would be sympathetic to Apple's argument about App Store commissions, but cheap V-Bucks were easy to rally behind. Apple booted Fortnite from its platform. The kids were bad. Hashtag free Fortnite trended, end quote. I thought that was an excellent paragraph. That is also kind of hilarious, but also accurate. So here we are.
Why does last August seem so long ago?
It's because it was so long ago.
It's been 10 years since last year.
All right, when we talk about... Okay, here's the thing. The invasion of Normandy was Operation Overlord.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, it's not that dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
If your name for your lawsuit against Apple is more dramatic than the name of D-Day, change the name of your stupid operation. No, that's point one.
It's a terrible, terrible name for that.
Operation Liberty is, we need to save France, not we need 30% more on Fortnite V-Bucks. I'm sorry, okay? So call it Operation 12-Year-Olds Unite. Something else. I'm being mean. Lots of people play Fortnite. It's a great game. I'm sure V-Bucks are legitimate. Anyway, now these email. I've actually got a lot of things to say. Because if you read the emails, so like one thing that we've talked about is like Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic, has come across as.
Sorry. There's just so much going on with this Epic Apple thing. So please keep going.
Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So he's approached this as like an idealistic venture, right? That this is something he really believes in. He really believes in a fairer market. He really believes in this sort of stuff. And, I don't know how... I know it sounds naive to say, okay, I somewhat believe that Tim Sweeney... That this isn't just, so you get more money, see? Like, this is really... No, he believes in a more open market that's better for consumers and stuff like that, right? Now, I say I don't want to sound naive because Fortnite is horrifically packed with microtransactions. So if you want to talk about consumer activism and stuff like that, you don't start with Tim Sweeney, and you definitely don't start with Fortnite. But in emails, it definitely... That narrative of Tim Sweeney pushing this as an idealistic venture, I think definitely continues. Whether or not it's legitimate, I still don't know. But the thing about those emails is that I don't know if anyone intended for them to go public. So it's like, if he's writing all idealistically in emails, and that's some real 4D chess, expecting them to go public in a court case in a year and a half, But anyway, so that's like thought number one. You go ahead with, you started to laugh, so
I started to laugh because there's so many emails.
Oh, there's a lot.
So many emails. And I got two of my favorite ones, but the one I want to talk about later, but the one here is because Tim Sweeney emailed Tim Cook at like 2 a.m.
And this is ridiculous. This is a clown show.
And basically was like, hey, look, like, Apple has done a lot for the App Store has done a lot for everybody, but maybe you should think about, making it an open platform or whatnot. And
listen, bro, just
And I guess Tim Cook, is that the
Tim Cook?
Tim Cook was like responded with like, was this one of the guys from our rehearsals? Like
he didn't know
towards Tim Sweeney. He had no idea who Tim Sweeney was. Oh my gosh. Anyways,
yes, that was funny.
God, whatever. Ridiculous.
So the other thing that makes me uncomfortable about all this is so if you go through the emails, because they not only talked with the emails that were released weren't only to Apple, it was also to Microsoft and Sony. So Epic tried to push Sony cross compatibility, which for some reason Sony just hated.
Yes,
and I guess still hates. I don't know.
Which actually, you say that leads into my favorite email.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah, you take it.
Well, I'm going to read it here. So Sony, it is a lot of stuff is revealed through this, but yeah, what was also revealed is that PlayStation does not want to do crossplay like whatsoever because it will hurt their sales, it will hurt their brand, whatever. I don't know.
No, they're doing it for the kids.
That's what Jim Ryan said.
So that's what Jim Ryan said.
I want to make that point real quick. That's a joke that we've continued on this show for a long time, but that was one of the first things that Jim Ryan, Super Agent Spy, actually used as an excuse for Rocket League back in the day.
Yes.
So, and that's clearly complete BS, but anyway, sorry.
So this was another email, and I'm going to read this just because I love this email. This is another email from senior level people at Sony and Epic. Epic was confident that Sony would basically adhere to cross-compatibility because Fortnite was one of the most popular games on PS4 at the time.
Yeah.
So Joe Kreiner sent this email to Sony, someone higher up at Sony, and it goes like this. God, this sounds like extortion. He says, "We love working with PlayStation, and we want this to be a win-win. The longer this drags out, it will be less so. I can't think of a scenario where Epic doesn't get what we want. That possibility went out the door when Fortnite became the biggest game on PlayStation. Here is what we propose. 1, we give you the data you're asking for, plus the marketing data ask. 2, Epic deeply integrates Sony Esports API into Unreal Engine 4 as an engine-level feature. We market and advertise it as a first-class citizen of the engine, maybe E3 announcement, and we support it in Fortnite. Number 3, we announce crossplay in conjunction with Sony. Epic goes out of its way to make Sony look like heroes. You get to pick the when, where, and how. 4, Epic brands its E3 presence with PlayStation. We're planning a 100-player celebrity pro-am with a huge after-party. Budgets I've seen are huge, and it will be the biggest event at E3. Maybe we announce with all the celebs on stage, new partnership, plus, who knows? And number 5, Epic's willing to explore more items. Maybe we commit to a game at the launch of your next VR platform? Number 6, PS Plus. Maybe we do something extra for the month. Offer a unique character or something highly valuable to drive the PS Plus adoption even more. Number 7, Epic extends the Sony company-wide Unreal Engine 4 license. I don't think I mentioned this before, but your license to use Unreal Engine 4 expires in May 2019. That license has some of the best terms we've ever offered for Unreal Engine 4.
Oh my god.
Let's make this a huge win for us all. Epic's not changing its mind on the issue, so let's just agree on it now. And that's how the email ends.
Okay, so first of all, was that Zed from Riot? Is there a I find people and things in there?
It sounds like it, dude. That's what
sounds like it.
When I read this email, I was like, this sounds exactly the same way. Like, holy crap. Like,
yes.
Like Epic thought it held all the cards here. And it turns out Sony was just like, okay, we'll do crossplay, but you pay us.
So a few things. That transitions beautifully into what I wanted to talk about, which is none of these companies are good.
No.
So Fortnite knows that it wanted to make itself look like a good guy. Knew that it had a bunch of, and listen, I don't mean to be demeaning, but yes, a massive size of its player base is kids, right? And if I were 12 years old right now, I would probably be playing Fortnite too. Hell, I'm building toy miniatures right now. That's what I'm doing with my free time. So if I was 15 years younger, I'd probably be playing Fortnite. I'm not any less a nerd than anybody else, okay? But the point I'm trying to make is Epic knows this, and Epic knows that those people are easy to sway, and, hey, hell, adults are too. I mean, every 4 years we learn this. So when it's... So I want to believe that Tim Sweeney is somewhat sincere about his idealism. On the other side, you have emails like that, which just make me roll my eyes, because Jesus Christ, are you trying to, how do you say something? Anyway, I don't want to, and that comes across as really insincere, right? Because you're pushing narratives, you're playing politics, and you're being insincere. And by insincere, I mean, that you're saying, we will frame the narrative this way if you do this for us, right? And to me, that's manipulative. So these companies are not, neither of these companies are good. They both do bullshit stuff. They're both bad. I understand where Epic is coming from in some ways because I get it. Paying 30% cut for games sucks and all that. But yeah, that was. I'm glad you read that because that was ridiculous. And in Tim Sweeney, one of Tim Sweeney's emails to Phil Spencer, who's the head of Xbox, I think it led off with or ended with like, I'm paraphrasing. There's going to be some great fireworks in the next few weeks or something, or enjoy the fireworks soon.
Sure.
And that was leading into Operation Liberty, right? So these companies know that they're trying to frame things certain ways. They know that their player base is young and impressionable. It makes me uncomfortable thinking that they may have wanted to take advantage. And I don't know, I think they probably did want to take advantage of that and knew that they could. And that makes me really uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable when you're talking about a politician doing it to Americans of voting age. So it's even more uncomfortable when you're talking about a video game developer doing it to what are essentially children and preteens and teenagers. So yeah, and I think it's just important to emphasize that all these companies suck. Tim Sweeney may have an idealistic, he may be sincere, he may actually want a more open games landscape. And if so, I'd say, hey, Sweeney, why don't you try and knock out crunch next? Why don't you try and knock out outsourcing next? You know, really change the games industry. Don't stop at a 30% commission cut. But on the other hand, there are people that are like, it's like bad Frank Underwood is what that from House of Cards.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of a dated reference now. But anyway, so yeah, I'm done. I'm really glad you read that email though, because I didn't read that whole thing.
I love that email. Jesus.
We may. I think we want to. We're gonna frame that sucker.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna print it.
Highlight our favorite parts.
Just frame it right there. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna frame that email and I'm gonna pretend it's from Zed. Connor, is there anything you'd like to say?
That email sounds like the email like a new made man sends out in the mafia because he thinks he's really big and bad now. Like that is just like bottom shelf, like protection and extortion racket right there.
Yeah, man.
Big things are happening. You want to be on our side of this. Oh, that is like cheesy Bond villain.
Yes.
Yeah, and like Sony had the reverse Uno card. Like, pay us.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
No, okay.
I think they get like 1 million or something.
I don't remember. I don't understand why Sony hated crossplay so much. It's like it's so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be like if one of the major sports leagues hated something that worked for every other sports league.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, you know? And anyway, well, and except for Nintendo, because Nintendo's weird. They live in their own universe. Things are strange. So Nintendo obviously is the outlier for no other reason, but they're Nintendo. But other than that, yeah, it really is confusing. Because even if, I'm stopping. Connor, anything else you want to say?
No.
Richard, anything else you want to say?
No.
Okay, moving on. Itch.io, as I referenced, was caught up in the epic Apple lawsuit. So if you think things...
Leave them alone.
If you think things slowed down, better put some seatbelts on your ears. During the trial, Apple lawyers criticized Itch.io for its inclusion of adult games. If you're unfamiliar with Itch.io, it is a website / desktop app that you can download. And it's a lot of indie games, small games.
So open platform,
Open platform. A lot of really cool stuff on there.
Very cool stuff.
There's a
lot of VR stuff for your Oculus as well.
Yeah, it's actually something that I continually forget about, rediscover, and I'm like, oh man, I have to check out some stuff on here. Anyway, that wasn't payola. Go check out itch.io. It was brought up because you can install / launch the itch.io app through the Epic Games Store now. Thus, if Epic is allowing adult games on the Epic Games Store through itch.io, they must be doing a bad job because adult games are bad and stuff. I don't know. As opposed to Apple, that believes its store is amazing and whatnot. Naomi Clark, who is a game designer and professor at New York University Game Center, told Axios, quote, I had a distinct impression that Apple was bringing up itch.io as a scapegoat, painting Epic as an irresponsible platform owner in comparison to Apple's squeaky clean image, end quote. Epic Game Store VP Steve Allison was being pressed on this by an Apple lawyer, defended itch.io as an incredible community of devs that they, and I think he meant Epic, support fully. However, when asked if he supported offensive / sexualized content on itch.io, Allison said that he did not support sexualized content of any kind. So it got very very intense and very serious there. Okay, so I wanted to defend itch.io.
Yeah.
Because that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it has no bearing on what it's all about. Anyways.
This is an argument built on a false pretense, right? So the false pretense is, first of all, as if all adult content is bad, right? So your false pretense is Epic is bad because adult content is bad. And this is the stuff that lawyers do. And, we got to have lawyers in our society right now. Maybe in 100 years, we'll figure something else out. I don't know.
Okay.
But for now, we need them. So whatever. But anyway, that's such a horrible fucking argument. And it's disingenuous. And it rides over the fact, first of all, that that video games are just like these things for kids, right? As if adult content, however you want to define that, is allowed. Now, that doesn't mean that I think anything could be in a video game. We had a really intense podcast not super long ago about a game that got on Steam that was rape fantasy, right? I don't know if you remember that. And I think we were all super against it. But I think there's a fine line between adult content, between early seasons of Game of Thrones, and like offensive crossing the line. There's a discussion to be had there. So putting it all under the same umbrella, I think, is just utterly ridiculous. Especially when it's something like itch.io, which for a lot of people is where they can upload stuff without, I don't know, it's a space where developers can upload stuff without worrying about the sort of things that go on Steam or whatnot. So it really annoyed me, because if you're going to decide these kinds of things about monopolies and economics and stuff, and you don't know enough about video games and art to make the distinction that has been made before in court cases at the Supreme Court level about obscenities and porn and art and stuff like that, then it just annoys me. It annoys the hell out of me. Because damn it, if you can understand economics to decide what's a monopoly and antitrust and stuff, you're smart enough to play a video game and think, oh, this is adult and kids shouldn't play it, but it's not obscene and bad. Anyway.
The reason why the ESRB exists.
Yes.
To tell you what is adult content and what is not.
Yes. Especially with that AO rating.
Yeah. But I feel like the adult content, particularly on anywhere, itch.io particularly, not necessarily Steam. Steam, when they started allowing that, it just filled up. It's just everywhere. But with itch.io, whenever you go to itch.io, it's like the adult stuff. It's like they're all like, you guys are doing great over there. We're going to be over here doing it. And they have their own corner. It's not like advertised. It's not, it's just, they're self-contained. But a lot of the coolest things from itch.io that I have seen has become great in its own right, and that's not what that site is about, so having the lawyers frame it is
as if they allow
it's cherry picking,
as if they allow what's the phrase for a tasteless movie, what's the
smut,
a snuff film, right?
Yeah.
As if they allow stuff like that, just anyone to upload it, right? So anyway, I don't want to get into freedom of speech and blah blah blah, but there is a line between obscenity and adult content, sexualized content, that I don't think it's all. I mean that it's not all offensive, and it's not all, people have different sensibilities and stuff like that. But when you crunch it down to the simple conversation, and the whole point is to frame Epic as irresponsible, that's really annoying to me, because it's disingenuous. And Apple is one of the biggest computer companies, one of the biggest companies on the planet. And if a lawyer they hire makes that kind of argument, Jesus Christ, it annoys me. There's no way you can't buy a better lawyer than one that's like, the kids today. Anyway, all right.
And it's just so weird, because you can't even do any of that stuff on Apple. So what does it have to do with them? Right?
Well, I think it's just to frame Epic in a certain light. Because if you frame them as irresponsible, then maybe that'll shape public opinion. Maybe it'll shape the judge's opinion. I don't know.
Irresponsible. Why are so many kids playing?
Exactly. Yeah, I know I am, but what are you? I mean, Jesus Christ. Connor, Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, that's just Apple being petty.
Okay. And as so this is we should do points, but every time we do points in this, it's a negative value. So it's like, okay, Epic gets -1 point.
So like around the horn, or no?
It's around the horn, but opposite.
Yeah. Okay.
So they just keep getting worse, but we're gonna see who gets the worst. No one really wins. They each are really bad. Woody Page would win, and
Always.
he'd have a chalkboard sign, and it's like, my apple's more epic than yours, or something like that. I don't know. And
Yeah,
he would
no,
win.
that sounds like a pun you would make.
Yeah, his are far more clever than mine. That's for sure. Bomani Jones would win. He'd hold up his ring. I could go on and on.
Yeah. I miss Max.
We get it. You like sports.
Is there? Oh, Connor, I'm sorry. Did I already shoot it over to you? Is there anything you wanted to say?
Oh no, you already got me.
Okay,
You're good.
Richard,
What's up?
do we have some tidbits?
This one, I couldn't find much, but this was from a couple weeks ago when we did not have a podcast. But Oculus headsets now make up 60% of Steam VR use.
It's because of the price point.
Because the price point, man.
Yep. Which,
Because
hey,
the price point. And you got AirLink now, so the AirLink update is out.
is it?
Yep.
Ooh.
So yeah, play wireless on your Oculus Quest with your PC.
I will have to try that. Now,
I hear it works incredibly well. If you have the setup for it.
the setup for it. Okay, yeah, I'll have to give that a shot. Yeah, I was playing. I really like the Index controllers.
Yeah, they're good controllers.
So I don't know if anything's going to be able to move me off my Index for the time. Index also has a lot more. I'll show you. A lot more customization options. There's a knob on the side that moves the oculars, whatever, forward and back and stuff like that. So it's a little more customizable. But yeah, anyway, that doesn't surprise me. And I think, what is it? HTC just announced a new headset. It's like $1,300.
5 Pro or something.
5 Pro 2.
Yeah.
So they're still betting on the high-end VR market being a thing, but you got to have a really beefy PC to get that working. Yeah,
Sony
we'll have
released
to
more
see.
information on the, or sorry, we have more rumors of the PSVR 2 as well.
Yeah, and the PSVR 2, it's like it's almost like the Nintendo of VR because it's in its own little realm. So it's kind of competing with the other VR, but it's also kind of not.
Sure, I think
Not that I'm not poo-pooing what you're saying.
No,
I'm just-
I think I give that distinction to Quest more than PSVR.
You think so?
Yeah, I think the Quest 2 is basically comparable to the Switch.
Oh well, yeah, I see what you're saying now.
It's
Yeah,
not very
yeah.
powerful, but what it does is incredible for the average person. So
Yeah, I would want to know how many people that don't have a PlayStation, right? Don't have a PC, buy a Quest and continuously play it. Like, I want to know that number. Because if you have a PC and you decide to buy a VR headset, I'm assuming you look at your options.
Yeah.
Most people are picking Quest 2. And if you have a PlayStation, then I'm assuming you're looking at your options as well.
Yeah.
And Quest 2 means, hey, I can get a VR headset and get the PSVR 2 when it comes out, and that's going to be right around the same cost as getting an Index or whatever. Anyway, so there's some interesting economics there. Anything you would like to say, Connor, before we close the podcast?
Nope.
Richard?
no.
No? Oh, sorry. I was pointing at you with my thumb.
No, yeah, no, I
Sorta
saw that, but I
hidden.
was just like, I don't know. I don't have anything.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse. We post videos. And we'll all be in this room next week.
Nice.
Woo.
And we're going to have all kinds of fun stuff set up and ready to go, and it's going to be
All
great.
right. Bye.